Piha, a popular West Auckland beach, located what should be a leisurely 40-kilometre drive from Auckland, had we bothered to invest into roading infrastructure at one point, allowed then an hour Wednesday at 3 in the morning. This sleepy beachside town, Monday to Friday, is currently all over the news, spawned its own documentary, not for the most endearing reasons, I must add. Over the past couple of decades, people have gone missing in and around this location. 6 young people, if we were to be more exacting. The hunt is on to find out why. There are 3 leading, and dare I suggest rational, theories as to why fit young people would last be seen in and around this location. That's before even jumping to the conclusion the last place they were spotted automatically equates to the fact this was their last resting place, or in fact they are all dead, just presumed. Putting these issues to one side for a start, and getting back to the possible reasons why the 6 disappeared, before we go the nth degree and suggest serial killers, 6 separate murderers, 2 doubles and 2 singles, all of which are especially proficient at disposing of bodies. We need to climb over the run-of-the-mill. The first of those is staring back at you. They went into the surf, whether deliberately in the exuberance of youth, or accidentally, then got into difficulty, drowned, their bodies washed out to sea. Drownings and near-death experiences along this stretch are a common occurrence. Overconfidence has seen 30 people drown within sight of the surf club. I've swum around Rangitoto Island, 4.6 kilometres open water, covered a K or 2 in the pool this morning. This is surf you need to treat with respect. One of the unspoken explanations that has to be on the table, however unpalatable, the S word. Piha, like Houghton Bay in Wellington and Taylor's Mistake in Christchurch, are popular and picturesque locations to take one's life. The S word is, after all, the second largest cause of death in New Zealand in the same age group for 5 of the 6. Falling off the track, getting too close to the edge of the cliff section, undertaking risky recreational activities in a fit of exuberance. Onshore accident card reasonably needs to be placed into the deck. My sceptic credentials nailed firmly to the wall, the elephant of the loon is now spotlighting, taking one area, Bermuda Triangle fashion, and beaming onto it. Is Piha Beach, over the last 2 decades, been any more dangerous than other popular recreational areas in New Zealand? Ones along the coast. Most Kiwis would put being washed off the rocks, for example, in the same bin as a motorcycle accident. Murderers, though, they perk our interest. What if we just looked at the number of road accidents into and out of Piha? Would that also show an anomaly focusing over a particular time frame? What I'm indicating to you in this intro, getting around to saying, there is nothing odd happening at Piha, even by Piha standards. Historically, if you wanted odd and intriguing, the period between 1936 and 49 produced way more mystery and intrigue in and around Piha, starting with Auckland accountant Eric Edgar took a taxi to Piha Beach on the 3rd of August 1936, was last seen wandering the shoreline, then disappeared. A large search was undertaken without success. Edgar's badly mutilated clothed body was found a week later by an opossum hunter lodged in the rocks. He was identified at the scene courtesy of his wedding ring. No cause of death was issued, the logical alternatives here being accidental or the S word, probably the latter, given he had left his car at home and taxied, thus muddying the waters in the initial where do we look period for the investigation. To prove in spades, strange yet empiric events have taken place in and around Piha, we only need to turn our attention to 2 fresh off the boat Australians, which may go some way to explaining their deviant behaviour, best buddies, Gordon Mackay and James Talbot. It started as a house fire at this rented cottage in Piha on 12th of February. One of the tourists escaped the flames. His mate wasn't so lucky. At least that was the story told by the survivor, James Talbot. The fire brigade and police now had the grisly task of recovering Mackay's incinerated remains. What was left of the victim, Mackay, was buried. Fortuitously for Talbot, Mackay had signed over his freshly minted life insurance policy to him, £25,000, a king's ransom in the day. The Australian insurance company, though, well, they smelt a rat and sent an investigator across from Sydney, searching through the remnants of the house on your screen. And he found the fire was started by an accelerant, likely kerosene. This development was taken to the New Zealand police, who opened their own investigation. All eyes were now on Talbot. Had he murdered his mate to cash in the policy? The police called for the public's help, tracking down the movements of the two in the days leading up to the fire. Bingo! The owner of a car garage the two had been renting said she knew the blokes from the paper. Went on to tell detective she'd spied into the garage, observed beside their car a spade and what looked like an oversized potato sack. The police walked off with the dirty spade in question. The dirt was analysed. It was found to have come from an area peculiar to the local cemetery. This was their next destination. All the recent burials were examined to see if any had been interfered with. One had. Auckland shopkeeper Patrick Henry Shine, who served in the Australian forces in World War I and had been buried shortly before his brethren arrived into this country. Shine's family were giving the shocking news that their husband and father's remains were now missing, which sparked an immediate reaction from the son. The strange encounter he'd had with two Australian men who knocked on his door the day after his father's funeral, claiming to be old service mates of his dad's. Two things raised his suspicions. These blokes weren't simply on a sympathy mission. One, they clearly weren't his father's vintage. And two, the peculiar raising of the subject about his father's teeth, the lack of them. Meanwhile, other detectives had another bite from the fishing mission in the papers. An Auckland dentist. He'd just removed Mackay's teeth. Most of the jigsaw now together. Now apparent this was an elaborate macabre insurance fraud, placing Shine's toothless body in the place of Mackay's. Talbot was promptly arrested, charged with conspiracy to defraud and interfering with human remains, a first for this country. The once dead and buried Mackay was proving more elusive. He was finally found a month and a bit later, wearing a disguise and using the name Tom Boland. Mackay got 4 years in Mount Eden, Talbot 2. Both were sent packing once their time was up. At the very same time, what was broadly termed the Piha fire mystery investigation was going on. About 75 kilometres as the crow flies east, and the police had a severed leg to deal with. Some of the media speculated that the Aussies might have undertaken a botched trial run. The pathologist report having indicated the leg was likely separated by a propeller or a similar man-made implement. A spade springs to mind, not having been simply gnawed away by hungry fish. And that theory that it was Australians was dispelled when the state of decomposition pointed it to being in the sea prior to Talbot and Mackay's arrival. It was determined to be from one of the three men missing at the time, having fallen off boats or gone onto the surf and not surfacing. Tracked down to one likely suspect, although we'll never know 100%. Quick advert break. Make this a plea break more like. At the beginning of the video there was a small bit of text highlighting the shadow banning of videos. Now armed with AI, the politically correct policing on YouTube has become over the top. There are literally dozens of terms and topics we employ and use in our daily lives. YouTube now ruthlessly censors. This means videos I've worked on, like the domestic spy ring hoax in World War II, are in fact quarantined. That's because I used the word Nazi. That video was never promoted and was a waste of my time and effort. I'd have been better rehashing it and putting it on a podcast platform. And ditto, this video about a Kiwi and Dr. Robert Campbell Bell, who lambasted National Socialism right to the faces of Germany's bigwigs. This over-the-top censorship is an issue to me and other creators, big and small. Your support, therefore, would be greatly appreciated trying to get round YouTube's algorithm by sharing, liking, and subscribing. Onwards. The Swish 5-seater sedan belonging to Union Secretary Walter Ashton was found abandoned at the beach front on the 23rd of April, minus its driver. A bloke who was highly aware his pilfering from his fellow comrades in the Glassworkers Union was about to be discovered. Then there was also the Communist Party kitty earmarked as aid to Russia he had helped himself to as well. Federation of Labour membership pocketed to boot. It wasn't, therefore, just the police and his family wanting to know his whereabouts. No one knows what happened to the former member of the National Executive of the New Zealand Communist Party. Most likely, Comrade Ashton drowned himself to avoid facing the music. Another alternative was on the table, still is. The rumours floating about at the time proposed he'd faked his death. Flush with cash, he'd used his contacts on the wharves and fled to Australia. Another tittle-tattle suggests Russia. An open ending. Just a month later, the police were back examining another abandoned vehicle within spitting distance of where Ashton's had been located. It belonged to a 43-year-old Auckland dentist, Fitz Rosarg. One day he kissed the wife and kids goodbye and left for work on the Great South Road. Only that morning, Piha was his destination. Rosarg's body was found washed up on the same beach 5 days later. Another case with a wee bit of enigma attached to it, at least to begin with. 53-year-old French engineer, now French teacher, Jean Veru, was found with a half-wrapped towel covering his face at high tide mark on Piha Beach. A gun wound to his skull above the right eye. What had the hallmarks of the S-word by a forlorn Frenchman who had been rejected by his one true love, her photo had been located in the pocket of the jacket he was wearing. A man mentally scarred after the rigours of Japanese internment in World War II. Spotted the day before, unceremoniously scattering his most precious worldly goods off the wharf at Devonport. A few issues, though, raised some suspicions. This wasn't just a simple S-word. Where was the gun? The police borrowed a metal detector off the New Zealand Army and couldn't locate one. What sort of gun was used? Forensics couldn't establish if it was a pistol or a rifle. Had it been a rifle, it would have to been another David Bain case, the bullet trajectory having made it near impossible to pull the trigger. Then there was the odd felt hat, identified as being a Veru's, located across the road from the beach, along with scissors used to cut holes in it. Very strange behaviour to undertake in your last minutes of life. All this initial intrigue, though, came to an end when a letter appeared from France at Veru's last address 3 weeks after his death. It was from his flame. He had written to her to say if she wouldn't become part of his life, he was going to end it all. By the time she received it, the pender leant back, saying, "Don't do it." He had. There we are, 6 real stories. Historic intrigue at Piha. I'm sure given the passage of time, there will be others. More twists and turns await us. And please do consider viewing those other 2 videos I highlighted, being victims of the overzealous narrative control here on YouTube, why far greater sites than mine or channels now require advertising, I only do this as a retirement hobby, promoting New Zealand history, the untold New Zealand stories. This is why subscribers like you are so important to me, sharing and going through old videos I've done, that sort of thing. Thanks for tuning in today. Bye for now.